Barakatay Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. This is another various topics dated May 2nd, 2024. Not sure what took place yesterday, but I know they've been passing a lot of legislation on the anti-Sem thing, so that could be something that they're pushing hard. And I'm sure there's other stuff that went down, being that it was May 1st. But I was watching this video yesterday here from Go Black to Africa. Jewish Americans show their DNA results. We're not Jews. What? So pretty much the brother that does the host, the Go Black to Africa, he knows he's an Israelite, but he caught up on thinking that Esau is their Japhet, because that's what he mentions. Now I don't know if he was just directly quoting this individual here, or if it's some research that he did that he came across and he thinks he's correct on it. But the so-called white man, including them 1948ers, they're all Edomites, they're all Esau. So this guy mentioned that the so-called Europeans are Japhet, and so did the brother. As you can see him here in the beginning of the video. And they're wrong on that. And it's heavy because I wanted to do this video yesterday, but I didn't get around to it. And as I was watching videos, I watched Elder Pastor's video that he did, and it's funny because he went into what the scholars call the Table of Nations, which is Genesis 10, which Lord's will we'll touch on that. But the reason why these people get so confused is because of the land or the area or location today known as Europe. That's where Esau puts or places Japhet, which those areas, are known as, Japhet's land, But the problem is that the actual people were moved out of there. Just give you something roughly. I'm trying to see if I can find a quick map. All right, that one there. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, I guess I could use this one for now. Matter of fact, let me see if I can make this just a tiny bit smaller. There we go. I can get everybody in there. All right. Now, let me move this over here, get it out the way. Okay, cool. Now, as you can see here, this is what they call Europe. You have Spain here, you have Italy, France is somewhere near Germany. Then you have Greece. You have this landmass here is known as Turkey today, or Turquia. Then you have, going this way, you have Armenia, so on and so forth. Then you go up into this region here is where you get Georgia, Russia, which was used to formerly called Georgia, Russia. They're an independent state now. This is where you had the Caucasus Mountains. And by the way, that's Caucasus Mountains. That's where Esau's from. No, just kidding. Esau's from Mount Seir, but they migrated up there, and that's the area where the Kazars were, that converted to Judaism roughly around 754 AD or so, in that time frame around there. And this, what they call Europe today, and also the islands in the Mediterranean Sea, this is all Japhet's land. Cyprus, all of these islands, this what they call the sporades, which means they're spread apart. and then Turkey, like I said, what they call today Spain and France and Germany and Europe, and all that. That's Japheth's land, but the Japhite people are not there because these devils moved them out of there. Let's go real quick to the book of Proverbs. I think that's the 22nd chapter. Yep, Proverbs 28, 22 and 28. Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. Right, and these devils have done that, just that. Proverbs 23 and 10, remove not the old landmark and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. Because even remember the Most High told Israel that, when they went through Esau's land and Moab's land and Ammon's land, that the Lord said he wasn't going to give them none of their land because those were already given to these different nations. Let's go real quick to Deuteronomy 32. Let me see something. Salak it for a minute. All right. So let me just get this other precept that's in my head. And I just want to make a mention that when you read the Josephus, right, you have Salak, it just something keeps popping in my head. What the hell? Just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, when you read the Josephus, in the Josephus, it tells you that. That's what I put. Oh, I had an eye on there. It tells you that the right there we go. Deuteronomy 19:14. Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark. But we'll come back to that. When you read the Josephus, it tells you that the Greeks were the first ones to take off the ancient names and put their more Greek-sounding names on their lands. This is why Mitzrayim, inside joke. This is why Mizraim was named Egypt, because they changed that. And even these scholars, which we're going to get to that too, Lord's will. So, but just bear with me. Bear with me. I'm just, as information is coming into my head, I'm just grabbing stuff up. So, Deuteronomy 32 and 8. Matter of fact, I start at 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Today, the fathers and the elders today, they don't know anything except for, the ones that are woke, that are, that the Lord opened up their spirit to understand. But these older jakes, they don't know shit out here, man. They're just as simple as the younger generation, except they're just sophomores, wise fools, a lot of them. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, what was their inheritance? Their lands. Your inheritance also comprises of your language and, everything that you have, but it mainly comprises of the land mass. So the Lord divided to each nation their inheritance, and he gave them their inheritance first, because the last nation to get their inheritance was the nation of Israel. But the nation of Israel, we got the best land, which the scholars call the Fertile Crescent, because it's very fertile. The word fertile means to be, when you have a woman that's fertile, meaning she gets pregnant at the drop of a dime, so that land is very fertile. When he separated the sons of Adam, because the Lord made a separation between the sons of Adam. Yes, we all come out of Adam, but the Lord made a separation. And this is what these wacky-tacky Christians don't want to deal with. Because they'll talk about the human race and so on and so forth. But if the Most High wanted everybody to be alike, why did he separate nations, and why did he choose a particular nation, which is the nation of Israel, to be his chosen? Think about it. He, the Most High, set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel, right? Because we got our land last. All right? So, bottom line is the nations were all given a portion of land to rule. And the Lord said, Deuteronomy 19:14, "Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in thine inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai thy power giveth thee to possess it." And even among Israel, the land that were inherited by the different tribes could not pass from one tribe to another. This is why if you had a woman or had daughters that had a father that didn't have any sons, when the daughters came of age and they would marry, they could marry, whoever they wanted, and in that case, but they could only marry within their tribe. They had to marry within their tribe. They couldn't, marry outside of their tribe. Now, if the only way when they could marry outside of their tribe, if you had brothers, the father had sons who the land could pass to. Because it wasn't like, well, if you're Judah, you got to stay with Judah. If you're Benjamin, you got to stay with Benjamin. No, you could intermarry among the tribes, but the only time that was forbidden is when the father only had daughters, and that inheritance of that tribe was at risk to pass from one tribe to the next, and that was not to be so. So even among the tribes, the Lord didn't want lands to be, the landmarks to be removed. He set the boundaries for a reason. Deuteronomy 27:17, "Cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark, and all the people shall say, so be true." Right, so pretty much the Lord said that they would be cursed. And that's why Esau is cursed, because they are the thief. You are thieves. Let's go real quick to Zechariah chapter 5. And 3. "Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth," dealing with the chariots. "For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it." So the chariots also are coming back to pay Esau back for removing these landmarks, on top of everything else that this devil has to pay for. So they got a lot to pay for. "And everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief." So Esau is the thief. They stole the world pretty much. And then just this side of the world, man, just imagine the whole Western Hemisphere was stolen by this devil. And then when you bring that fact up to them, like in that movie, I believe it was either Civil War or another movie. No, I'm sorry, it was the Walking Dead series, I believe, where the guy was telling the other individual, I forget the names of the characters, that they stole this land from Gad pretty much. And he said, nope. He said, the land belongs to him that's able to hold on to it, or, something along those lines. So pretty much they don't even want to accept the fact that they stole this land from Gad and Reuben and Issachar. "And it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name," because these devils know the name of the Most High. But they cover it up with all different other kinds of names and pay individuals. Every time this word comes out and the names of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai come out, you have these devils there to ensure and pay these sellouts not to teach in those names. You see? because they know how powerful those names are. So this is why when Comfy was on the scene and they had they changed it to the ICGJC. The first thing that went was the Most High Son's name, Yahweh Shai. Say Bun Yahweh. Then after a while, they took the name Yahweh out, and then they started adding all kind of madness. The same thing with the IUIC, Bishop Nathaniel. They had a meeting to get rid of those names. Why would you do that? What possible reason would there be to do that? Oh, well, the people don't speak Hebrew. Yeah, but how hard is it to explain to them the Most High's name is Yahweh, his son's name is Yahweh Shai, break it down in the syllables, tell them what it means, and that's it. When you pray Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Yahweh in the name of his son Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai said, anything that you should ask in my name, that will I give, or that will I do. It's not that hard. So why would you spend all that extra energy to get rid of those names? Because those names are very powerful, and these devils know that. And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof, because the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So, going back here, Job 24:2, some remove the landmarks they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. So they remove the landmarks. We read these two already. So now moving on to Psalms 49:11, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. This is why you have a lot of places called Columbus, a lot of places called by different names of the individuals that conquered. You have down in Puerto Rico a place called Ponce, which was named after Ponce de Leon, which was a conquistador. You have places all throughout America called Columbus, after that devil Columbus, Christopher Columbus, which is pretty much a spin-off to the or veneration to the goddess, Semiramis, the false goddess Semiramis. This is why you have the name Columbia, Columbine, you have Columbus, so on and so forth, which the word columb, which is a root word off of Columbus and Columbia, goes back to the word dove, which when you look it up, Semiramis, or the Queen of Heaven, was depicted as a dove. All right. So what else do we have? Okay, so that's pretty much it. So moving on, we have here even these scholars. Scholars know that the Hamites are so-called black, but not the Israelites, not the Negroes. Now, are they not, brown-skinned people? Yes, but they understand that they're not the same people, because when you go back to the beginning, in the beginning, all people were brown-skinned. Let's go to Genesis 2:7. And it says, and the Lord Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, power, formed man of the dust of the ground. The word for ground is the word Adamah. Adam's name is Adam. All right? And his name was named after the ground. Let's see. Ground, see? Adama. And Adam's name is Adam, which is a variation of the word ground. And what color is the ground? It's brown soil. That is the richest soil that you can grow stuff in, which Adama, or the ground. All right. Then it says, and breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, which is this truth. He gave him perfect understanding. You can read about that in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiastes 17th chapter. And man became what? A living soul. So Adam, the first Adam, not the second Adam, but the first Adam, inside joke, he was the first man on the planet that was awoken with the understanding of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Because man walked upright, they were made in the image of the Lord, but Adam was the first man that was made in it, or was given the true understanding, the ability to reason, to convey his thoughts into speech, okay, and given the true understanding of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, okay, and through him came the sons of the righteous, or the sons of God, and also the sons of the wicked. Just like when you updated to Isaac, through Isaac, after the flood, Isaac was the one that had two sons, Jacob and Esau. Out of Jacob came the sons of God, or the Israelites, and out of Esau came the sons of the wicked, or the sons of Cain. If you can receive it. If you can't, I don't know what to tell you. So when we read the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary, it says Ham, which is one of the sons of Noah. Noah had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Let's get that real quick. Genesis 10 and 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So these three men here that came out of Noah was how the world was repopulated once again. And it's heavy that the name Shem goes back to the Hebrew word Sham, which means name, because through this lineage, this is where the name of the Lord would be kept, among the, Israelites and in general. So Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. So the earth was repopulated, by these three men. When we jump down, you can go to the 9th chapter, Genesis 10:32. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations and their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. All right, and it goes on to name the sons of Shem, the sons of Ham, and the sons of Japheth. All right, so when we read about the sons of Ham, the youngest son of Noah, which the word Ham or Chum means hot, not perhaps, it means hot. Chum. The word Africa, coincidentally, is a compound word. Is Noah not, and frigus is cold. So not cold means what? Hot, because the climate is hot. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor, or the father, of the dark races. Because Noah was a dark-skinned man. Shem was a brown-skinned man. Japheth was a brown-skinned man, and Ham was a brown-skinned man. All right. Oh, matter of fact, let me get one more precept before we move on. Let's go to Numbers. Chapter 12 and verse 10. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. So if you turn leprous, white as snow, what color was she prior to that? She was a brown-skinned woman. Now just imagine you have a super dark brown person, and all of a sudden they turn white. People are going to bug out. And this is what happened with Miriam. She was the leader of the pack. I believe she was the oldest. And her and Aaron were cursing, Masha out because, he had taken a woman of another nation. And the Lord was angry, and he came down, and, he could have got Aaron, but he got the woman. Miriam became leprous, white as snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not this sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. So if it was a pleasure to look like a so-called white person, why was Aaron so nervous and scared, thinking that plague was going to come upon him and the rest of the people? You see? It's not nice to look like a so-called white person. That's a curse, direct curse from the Father. Because all people in the beginning were brown skinned. And we could go on and on with different precepts. So Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons that lived through the flood, he became the progenitor or the father of the dark races, and they were all brown skinned, not the Negroes. So why did they distinguish between Ham and the Negroes? Because they know that the Negroes came out of Shem, so-called Negroes, and that would be today classified as Judah. And because the so-called Negroes or so-called blacks of this country come out of Shem, they are the true biblical Jews, not no Hamites, not no Africans. But they pushed that, and they allowed that to be pushed because that's where Jake was taken from at the time to be brought over here in slavery, which they say slavery never happened. Unbelievable the lengths that these devils will go to, and these black devils too. Then it goes on to say, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, because they can't say, well, no, everybody was white. Well, the so-called Mormons say that. They were white. The Lamanites were white and beautiful. But because they sinned, the Lord cursed them with a skin of blackness, which shows you that they understand the history of Cain and the curse that the Lord put upon Cain, the mark that he put on Cain, which is exactly that. The Lord turned him into a so-called white man. All them dark-skinned people, he turned them into a so-called white man, and that's why he was like, God damn, my sin is more than I could bear. Anyone that finds me gonna kill my ass. Because he didn't look right. He was undone. He's come undone. Inside joke. So, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, and it gives you scripture. All right, now, when we go to Genesis 10 until the sons of Japhet. All right, now the word Japhet, Yapath, means to enlarge. So he had Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sons he had. These are the original inhabitants of the land, what they call today Europe. Right here. All of this land here. This land right here. All right. This is, what they inhabited. But what happened was, when the so-called white man, the Edomites, came into Europe, they started to conquer the brown-skinned people of Europe. Because when you type in, just to give you an example, let me go to images here. When you type in Minoans, right, you have here a picture that was painted, actual painting that was done by them of the Minoan people. And you can see that they're brown-skinned people. Now you might say, well, what's that white one there? This white one here is a woman. These are men, and this is a woman. And the reason why she's painted white was in Minoan art, when you see the white, white one, that was a distinction between the men and the women. So they painted the women white to distinguish which ones were the men and which ones were the women. Because as you can see, the men didn't have any beards. They had long hair, So there was not much to distinguish them. So that's why they would paint them white. You could do the research. You could go to, Wikipedia, look up Minoans, and they'll tell you within there. I've done it before plenty times, where the white-looking characters in Minoan art were painted that way to distinguish the men from the women. All right? So as you can see, they're brown-skinned people. You put in the Etruscans. The Etruscans are brown-skinned people. Let me see. Etruscan, terracotta, terracotta. Let's see if we could find. As you can see, that wider noses, brown skin. As you can see, got the brown skin, got the kind of like the, that almost straightish kind of hair, like the Polynesian people. Here we go. This is the one I was looking for. As you can see, brown skinned person. All right, so let's get rid of these. Look at that. Their wide nose. You can see that's a so-called Polynesian person. Type in Polynesian people. Boom, there you go. Matter of fact, let me get this one. See? Look at that nose. Same thing we were looking at before. Look at the Minoans. And look at the so-called Polynesian people. All right. You got some beautiful women too. Another thing too that they did was they painted themselves. Some tribes, like this individual here, they had a lot of tattoos all over them. That goes to the Picts of Europe, which they were called the Picts by the Romans. They called them the Picts, or the pictorial people, because they would paint their bodies, with all these different tattoos. They show you that in the movie Centurion. No, not Centurion, I'm sorry, The Eagle. The Eagle. If you watch the movie The Eagle, they're showing you drawings of so-called white people, but this, just to give you an idea, they used to paint themselves with all different types of tattoos. They weren't looking like no white people though. All right. But that's what you're gonna get. So they were known Picts or pictorial people because they used to put all type of tattoos all over them, and that's what the Romans called them, the Picts, the pictorial people. All right, which they inhabited, the land today known as Europe, the islands. All of those islands that you see here in the Mediterranean Sea. This is where they had all of this until Esau came in there. And now it's my belief, that because we know that Alexander the Greek and his father Philip are Edomites. We know that they conquered Macedonia, Greece, the known world at the time. And when you go back to the line of the Macedonian kings, it goes back to roughly around 800 BC. And 800 BC was around the time when Esau revolted from under the hand of Judah. And it's my belief, I don't have any proof on it. It just, the dates kind of match up, that's when Esau started to conquer what was known as today Europe. But that's just my personal belief, like I said, because the times kind of add up. So either two things happen. When they came into Macedon, Philip and his son Alexander, and maybe a couple of generations before that, took over the line of those kings, as Esau does, like you have today. Oh no, how are they gonna do that? Well, isn't the queen that just passed and this devil Charles that's in there, they took over Jake's throne. It was Israelites that were ruling in the throne of England. So they took over that. They made a declaration in 1901, because they had the new faction, so to speak, of kings and queens, which were Edomites. And those kings and queens were Edomites, because the last Jake king to sit on the throne of England was Victoria, and she was a light-skinned so-called black woman who married an Edomite, Edward the Seventh, I believe it was. And from that point, after her death, then that's when Esau took over. That's why in 1901 they had to make a declaration. You know. Yeah, the Canaanite. Yeah. They conquered. They had those lands. Yeah. You're right. Well, they were an elite race. They were a cursed race. When you go back to Genesis, the ninth chapter, they were a cursed race because of what Ham did. Matter of fact, and even here in this still from the Zondervan's Bible's dictionary, it says this is dealing with Ham, which is the father of Canaan. His indecency when his father lay drunken brought a curse upon Canaan. See, so they were cursed. So Genesis chapter 9 and verse 24, it says that Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. Yeah, because he made mockery of his father's nakedness, as you can see there. And he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. So although they were in those lands, eventually they would be cursed. And the Lord set this up this way because he knew eventually he was going to give that land that the Canaanites had to the Israelites, to the promised seed, bottom line. So they're not an elite race. They're more so a cursed, tribe among the Hamites. All right. So, and I believe from that point on, when they took over Macedonia, that's when they started to spread, out, because the first thing that Alexander the Creep, or what they call the Great, we call him the Greek or the Creep, did was he united the whole, the whole of Greece, because he had a lot of turmoil going on before they can conquer the known world. There was a lot of turmoil going on with all those different city-states in Greece, and eventually, when he fought so many wars with them, he was able to unite them. And then from that point on, then he started conquering all them different lands. And the main nation at the time, when Alexander was going out to conquer, was the Persians. The Persian and the Mede nation. And once he conquered them, everything else, fell into his hands. He did that in 12 years. He conquered the known world. 12 years. Then after the Greeks came in, the Romans, which absorbed the Greek Empire into themselves, and they conquered the known world at the time. And they conquered all of these lands here that were on the borders of the Mediterranean. Because once you owned these lands, you pretty much had the world at the time. So going back, the inventions made them great, but they were still cursed, Just like Esau, they got technology now where they could send rockets and, all over the place. They got technology to, destroy each other with these missiles and the internet and all of that, but they're still a cursed people. So I don't know what your obsession is with the Canaanites, but they're a cursed people, bottom line. Just like Esau is a cursed people. So it says, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah, right? And Ashkenaz is what they say that the Germany is called. Matter of fact, let me see. And this is where they claim that these, because the small hats, you had some of them that came out of Germany. Some came from Poland, some came from Russia, and those different regions around there. That's why they call them Eastern European, and this is why this individual here claims that the Ashkenazi, or the small hats that came out of Germany, are Japhet, and they're not. They're Edomites. You know, it's not about the location where you're at, because remember, the ancient landmarks were removed. There was a lot of conquering going on. It's just like saying today that you probably a Canaanite. It's just like today they're saying that the so-called white man, you know, are Americans, but they conquered this land. You had, you know, people here before they got here, which was the so-called North American Indians, which are the tribe of Gad, the so-called Seminole Indians, which are the tribe of Reuben, and it's just not the Seminole. You had a whole bunch of tribes of Reuben, and then you had the tribe of Issachar, which are the so-called Mexicans. You know, the so-called Mexican Indians. You know, so by the so-called white men saying that they, you know, conquered their land and that they're those people, that's not true. And you even see some of them trying to put on feathers and, you know, act like they're Gadites, and they're not. They're nothing but Edomites. You know? That's what the devil does. So the so-called white man did not come from Europe. They conquered the land of Europe. They removed the dark-skinned people that were in those lands, you know, and they assimilated themselves. Mexicans are not Canaanites. You know, somebody get rid of this guy, man. Somebody get rid of this guy. The Mexicans are not Canaanites, man. What's wrong with these guys? I bet you go to his page, he ain't got shit on his page. Get out of here, man. There's always the non-experts that are going to tell you how to run this network. Inside joke. Get out of here, man. Go play in traffic, man. Or go watch some booty shaking videos or something like that. The Kazar, let me see something the elder put. The Kazar Empire spread from where Ashkenazi once dwelled. There are no prophecies that say that Japhet would rule and control the slave trade, oppressing Israel. That's right. And it doesn't say that the Japhites would build anything, but it says that Esau can build. Always a roach lurking. Oh, you know that. You know that. But that's why he got hit with that raid. Everybody on the dance floor. Raid. Woo. All right, so going back. So that's why they say that that's where they're from. And this is why individuals get tripped up, because they think that the so-called white man that call themselves Europeans said they came out of Japhet, and they don't. And that's something that's been taught for a long time, and that's not the case. Another scripture they get tripped up on is here. They don't understand that these devils took over these lands. Let's go to Joel chapter 3 and verse 6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians. Right, which the so-called white men did take over, you know, the mainly the southern kingdom, and you had some of the northern kingdom there, but mostly the southern kingdom, and put them into captivity and brought them over here in ships, you know, to fulfill prophecy that you might remove them far from their borders. Now, when you look up this word Grecian in the Old Testament, it goes back to the Hebrew word Yawan, or Yawan, which is where you get Grecians or Ionian, but they took over that land. They're not the actual descendants of that land, because the actual descendants of that land were brown-skinned people. We just showed you that the Minoan people were brown-skinned people, you know? And when the so-called white man came in there, that's when he took over those lands, all right? But they didn't originally inhabit those lands. So it says, in the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah, because one thing that these devils are trying to do, they're trying to get away from the fact that they're Edomites, that they come from Esau. Because they know that Esau receives no good mention in the scriptures. None whatsoever. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to show you that. If I could find it. Oh, you mother. Oh, you mother. Just bear with me 1 second. I think they took it down. They took down the site. I had the Illustrated Bible Dictionary. Now it's saying that it's not found. All right, no biggie. No biggie. Let's do it like this. Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. Edom. Yeah, I can say you always have a roach that gotta, get in there. And always, there's always, the non-experts, the guy that they know shit. Then all of a sudden they learn a couple of scriptures. Now all of a sudden they're the experts. Unfucking believable. Shit. Salaki, I'm just trying to. All right, so this is Edom here. We read down here, it says Edom figures prominently in the prophetic scriptures as a scene of great future judgments. See notably Isaiah 34 verses 5 and 6, and 63 and 1. She is the only neighbor of the Israelites who was not given any promise of mercy from the Most High, and they know that. That's why they don't want to associate themselves with the Edomites. That's why they'll call themselves Japhet, they'll call themselves Israelites or Jews, and all this other stuff, but they will not want to identify as the Edomites. And then even when you look up the name Esau, and you go to that's why we tell you that blue letter goes off when you go to Genesis 25 and 5, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau, which goes back to the Hebrew word Aishah or Aishashwa, which means wasted away is he. When you go to find out who they are, let's say you're doing studying, here you go Aishah, which goes back to the word Aishashwa, and it doesn't mean hairy. Esau means wasted away is he. Then when you read about him, eldest son of Isaac and Rebekah and twin brother of Jacob, that's true, sold the birthright for food when he was hungry, and the divine blessing went to Jacob, which is true. Then it says progenitor or father, what, of the Arab peoples? No, that's not the case. Now Antipater, which was an Idumean, which was forcibly converted into Judaism under John Hyrcanus I, he married a Nabatean princess, which the Nabateans were Ishmaelites or Arabs, and he married her, but that doesn't make those people Edomites, because the line goes by your fathers, not by your mothers. All right, and the Nabatean people, which were Ishmaelites, conquered the land of Edom. They conquered Moab and Ammon, and that region there. Today it's called Jordan. They conquered that land and that region, but they are not the original people of that land. The original people of that land are the Edomites, such as Herod and Antipater, so on and so forth. All right, so they're going to tell you that, but that's not the case, because they don't want to identify with being, Edomites. So back in Genesis 10 and 4, and the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodanim, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. So what are those isles? Those are those different islands in the Mediterranean Sea. All right, so they had all these lands before, right? But then it says Gentiles. So these individuals, even so-called scholars, certain ones of them, and unlearned people say that, well, see, the only Gentiles are Japhet. I had this argument with this clown years ago. Gentiles are because, the word Gentiles doesn't call anybody else Gentiles but the Japhites. No. I told him, I said, well, keep on reading. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. I said, the word Gentiles means nations. No, yeah. I said, look, when you look up the word Gentiles, scroll through here. The word there is ha-goyim. Ha is the, and goyim is the plural way of saying nations. And then when you go down to the word nations, you have the word goyim. Ba is in, goyim is, well, here it says goyim, but goyim is also nations. And then he stopped, texting back and forth with me on the comment boards, So the word Gentiles and nations is synonymous. The only Gentiles, Japhet are not the only Gentiles. You have many Gentiles. You even have Israelites that are called Gentiles. It's a matter of understanding the word Gentiles and what it means and what context is used in Scripture. Bottom line. So moving on, it says, and the sons of Ham, now we're dealing with Ham. Ham had 4 sons, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan, which the Cushites is where you get the Ethiopians from, which that's what the Greeks called them. I believe the word was Esapar, which means black face. And then you have Mizraim is where you get the Egyptians. And you have Put, which are the North Africans, and you had Canaan, which were the South Africans. Bottom line, and the Canaanites had all of this land here, that Israel would eventually inhabit and conquer and inhabit, because this was the land that was promised to them by the Most High Yahweh through the promise and the oath that he made to Abraham. And that's why the Lord caused Ham to do what he did, and for Noah to curse Canaan, Ham's firstborn son, because the Lord knew that he was going to give him this land to hold. He was just keeping it warm, inside joke, and eventually Israel came and took them out of that land, but not completely, because this land, what they call the Fertile Crescent, which is from like around the area of the Euphrates River, all that land, coming down into like the bottom, like around Syria and all those areas there, coming down all the way down here to the Nile River in Egypt. All this was Jake's land, all of this here. And then you had the desert down here. This was Ishmael, but the parts, that's fertile, this is all Israel. And that's why when Joshua was taking Israel to conquer the Canaanites and take over the land, you had Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh, which was on the east side of the Jordan River. They took those lands, but they said, look, we want these lands, but we'll cross over with you and fight against the Canaanites to get the rest of Israel their lands. Because all that belonged to Jake, all of that. Because the desert, this is really nothing down here. This is mostly all desert. And you have the Ishmaelites that live down here, but all these lands over here, this is all Jake, all Israel's land. All right. So through these 4 sons, they had sons, so on and so forth. This where you had Cush, which are the Ethiopians, begat Nimrod. Nimrod was a Cushite. The history goes that Nimrod's mother, which was Semiramis, they had a son through miraculous birth because Nimrod was dead already. And that's where you get the word, where you get the child Tammuz, a mother and child, the goddess or queen of heaven worship. That all goes back to these times here. Because what they call the plains of Shinar. Let me see if I get a better map, something a little bigger. Plains of Shinar map. Let me to the map. All right, so Nimrod, he had set up Assyria and all those different places, right? You have the land of Shinar, which was between the Euphrates and the Tigris River. All right, this right here is what they call the cradle of civilization. This is where civilization started over again, because when the ark rested, it rested on the mountains of Ararat. It said the mountains of Ararat. And from that point on, this area here is where Shem, Ham, and Japheth repopulated the earth. All right. So that's that area there. So Cush begat Nimrod, and that's where you get all that. This is why the Lord directed Abraham to leave the land of Ur of the Chaldees, which is down in this area right down here, which you see the Persian Gulf there. This Ur of the Chaldees, Sumer, you hear about the Sumerians, and all of them different, gods they were worshiping. And the Lord directed Abraham to leave there and not to worship the gods of his father. And they went up, and by the time they got to around the land of Syria, right here, Haran, Padanaram, his brother Haran died, and that's why they named this land Haran, after his brother. He died. This is where I believe that's where Lot came out of that line. And that's when they left from there, because the Lord didn't want Abraham to worship them gods, because the Lord was about to make this promise, this covenant, this pact with Abraham. All right, so in Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Right, and they say that the reason why Esau wasn't hungered is because he went hunting, and then he ran into Nimrod and his two bodyguards, and that's why he killed them, and then that's why he was hungry. Bunch of madness. I believe that was the book of Enoch, if I'm not mistaken, or Yasher, one of them crazy books. Now, some of those books actually exist. The book of Enoch, there's an actual book of Enoch, but we don't have that. There's an actual book of Yasher, but we don't have that. All right, so then it goes on to giving all the places where they are. Then it gives Mizraim, and then you have the, where is it? Philistines. That's where the Philistines came out of. They came out of Mizraim. And that's one of Jake's biggest enemies back then, especially conquering their land, the Philistines, Canaanites. Then we come down to the 21st verse, unto Shem also. And Shem, which would be the son Shem, which is name, this is where the name of the Lord would be kept through this line, and also the language. Also the father of the children of Eber, because Eber, when you break down the word Eber, it goes back to the word, I believe it's Habar or Ibar. Let me see something. Because they'll tell you Heber. It's really Ibar. All right, Ibar, which Ibar is where you get the name of the language, or Ibar Yah, which is a Hebrew or a Hebrite. All right, Ibar. This is where the name of the language was kept, because when he had sons, I believe it was Eber, he had two sons, Joktan and Peleg. Peleg, back to the Hebrew word Pelag, which means divide or division. Because during the time when Pelag was alive, that's when the earth was divided into the different languages. And the nations were spread abroad, and broken up, because they were all of one speech and of one mind. And they were building the Tower of Babel, and the Lord didn't like that, and he broke them up. He gave them differences of speech. All right, different dialects. It says the children of Shem, which he had 5, Elam and Ashur and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. Now the line of the chosen went through Arphaxad, because you had Elam, which are the so-called East Indians. They're Hebrews, but they're not the chosen line. You have Ashur, which are the Assyrians. Now Lud was in the land of today known as Turkey. This was where they were at. Lud, Tubal, the different ones that are Togarmah and all of that. Those are the ones that are in the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, which Russia would be a god unto. Okay. And Aram are the Syrians. Now this Aram or the Syrians is different from the Aram or the Syrians in Deuteronomy 23:7. Thou shalt not abhor a Syrian. This was the actual Syrians, but the reason why Bethuel and that line of Haran and Adam's family line were called Syrians were because they were living in that land. They had the citizenship, not because they come out of the line of Aram, because that can get a little confusing. Then it gives you the sons of Aram, so on and so forth. And verse 24, and Arphaxad begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. That's where you get the Hebrew language from. They kept the Hebrew language. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And that's what we read in Deuteronomy 32 when the Lord divided to the nations their inheritance. So after the Lord confused the language, that's why it was called Babel. The word Babel goes back to Babylon or Babal, which means confusion. Then he gave the nations their lands. And his brother's name was Joktan. Right, so the chosen line went from Arphaxad to Salah to Eber to Pelag. And you read Genesis 11 further down, and it gives you the line, and it'll take you all the way down to Abraham. Because out of Abraham's 3 sons, he was the chosen one that the Lord used, or the head of the fathers of the promise. Because you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It says, and it goes on and on and on. It gives you all of the different names of the sons of or the chosen line. It says, these are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations and their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So all nations on the planet Earth come from either Shem, Ham, or Japheth. There's another one right here. Genesis 9:18. The sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. And as you read further down, it tells you that they were cursed. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. That's how the earth was repopulated. That's why they call that. Matter of fact, let's go. What is the cradle of civilization? The cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, the area between the Tigris and the Euphrates River in modern-day Iraq, is often referred to as the cradle of civilization because, let's see, Jessica S. Johnson, often called the cradle of civilization. Iraq was home to the ancient Mesopotamian people. Right, that was another name for it, Mesopotamia, the land between 2 waters, or 2 seas, or something like that. Developed the world's first writings, agriculture, and cities between 10,000 and 3,000 BCE. Powerful civilizations from the Sumerians to the Neo-Assyrians ruled the region. But the Esau with his dates, this is a lot closer to it, the 3,000, because Abraham was on the scene roughly around 2200 BC. All right. So that's the cradle of civilization. The plains of Shinar, which the scriptures speak about. You also have Mesopotamia. Matter of fact, let me just grab that. Copy. Paste. Sorry for you scoffers. This is a boring lesson, so you can get to stepping, because this is not for you. You're not gonna like this one. You have the word Aram, which is a compound word Aram, and then you have Nahar Yum. Nahar is where you get the word river. Nahar Yum is rivers, plural. The Yum at the end makes it plural. So Aram Nahar Yum, which is rivers. The dual of Nahar. Aram of the 2 rivers, right? Which Aram goes back to the word Syrian. Aram of the 2 rivers, Mesopotamia. That's the land between the 2 rivers. All right, so you get the idea, you get the picture. So that's what they scholars call the table of nations. Matter of fact, let's get one more. What is the table of nations? The table of nations, also known as the generations of Noah, or origins, gentium, or origins of the people, is the genealogy of Noah's sons and their dispersion after the flood. According to the Hebrew Bible, Genesis 10 and 9, it focuses on the major known societies. The table of nations includes the account of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their sons after the flood. All right? And that's that. So pretty much, this brother here, not him, but, the brother here that hosts this page, Go Black to Africa, he doesn't, I don't know if he understands or he's just repeating what this guy was saying, or he believes that the so-called Europeans, and the Amalekites, or small hats, they're Japhet, they're not. They're Israelite. I'm sorry, they're Israelites. Slip of the tongue. One would slip over his tongue, but not from his heart. That they are the Edomites that the Bible speaks of. All right, they are the biblical Edomites. That's their true nationality. And I don't know if he knows that, or if he was just repeating what this guy was saying, later on, the guy in the background there. But nevertheless, the people that call themselves Caucasians or so-called European come out of the seed of Esau, which later was named Edom. They were named Edomites. The word Edom comes from the Hebrew word Adawam, which means red. And they are the true red people. They go in the sun too long, they turn red. They get embarrassed, they turn red. They laugh too hard, they turn red. They get mad, they turn red. And that's their true biblical nationality. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say Shalom. B52 made the song called Mesopotamia, basically saying it's the cradle of civilization. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've heard of the B52s, yep. But Apostle Gabar, he's the music expert on that. Shalom.